But yeah, so basically the classes of I'm going to be taking Sophia and putting her onto Demi-Bahamut. Now I did some pre-planning already, uh,
Let me get the butter.
but it's basically starting almost from scratch, kind of. So the first thing I always do when I do a summon edit is I copy the model over. Um, I've already also decided what scaling I want to do for her,
How
but
exactly do you copy the model
so
exactly?
that's what I'm going to do right now.
Okay.
So I have a notepad that I keep that I have just file paths from various creatures and everything, demi-human file paths, monster file paths. This just helps me keep things organized and keep it where I can just use uh, replace to replace the monster codes, which is these 4-digit code right here on all of these file paths because they're all basically the same. Usually they're the same. You can I think there's a few rare instances or you might have variants that you need a different path for, but it's usually always the same file paths for all monsters. And then same ones for demi-humans. Uh, those are basically your two categories of monsters. Uh, Monsters, and then you have demi-humans. Monsters usually cover the majority of creatures in game, while demi-humans usually cover beast tribes. That covers the chocobo. It's mostly anything that requires parts. So like if you have different arms, different legs, different weapons, stuff. The Moogles are an example of a demi-human because they have multiple different armors. They have uh, different whiskers even. They have two different body types for two different whisker types. Um, but first thing I'm going to do is copy the model file to Demi-Bahamut. Oops, wrong one. And then Demi-Bahamut's file path. And now it's copied over. So I can go to Demi-Bahamut.
Oh, okay.
And now Sophia's textures are there. Her model will be here once it loads. It can take a few seconds, a little while to load sometimes. Soul, you can talk too. You are welcome to talk in this.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, if you want to ask questions too, that's more than welcome. So yeah, so there's Sophia. She's got a bunch of different parts, her scales, her the daughter's. Wasn't it? Didn't she call it her daughter? Her head?
I'm not sure. I don't even remember this fight. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Really? Containment Bay P16, I think it was.
I'm gonna be
I think
honest
so.
with you. I came in when Endwalker was
Oh, okay.
thing, and yeah, I just completed it this year.
So for her, I've already decided I want to increase her size by 2 times. The reason for that is the Bahamut Edgy has a ton of downscaling. Um, so the game, to kind of explain, the game uses downscaling or upscaling, downscaling all over the place. Um, it's how they usually reuse assets. So if you extracted Bahamut Edgy's model and put it next to Bahamut's model, they're basically exactly the same. There's some differences in how the model assigns textures because Demi Bahamut has a slightly different texture layout, but they're almost exactly the same size. Well, actually, they are exactly the same size. And so the game just uses downscaling to make Demi Bahamut about 30% uh, big Bahamut size. And so I'm gonna upscale her. She's already big, and I'll show you here how big she is. So delete that. And to give you a comparison, so here's Sophia, and then here is Demi-Bahamut. So he's bigger than she is, quite a bit bigger. To give you kind of a reference, I guess, I think two of these squares here is about the size of a player character. Of like a Rothgar, basically, player character. So I want her to be 2 times her current size. Now this is also I'm also gonna cover animation editing. So choosing a scaling based on her model and how she looks compared to Bahamut lets me choose the scaling that I'm gonna have to do to the animations and to the skeleton. So now I apply the scaling and I have a model that I can use for the Bahamut replacement. So I'll just name it. And each of the summons, except for Titan and Garuda, have and Phoenix have different scalings. So Bahamut has the most downscaling. All right, I'm going to import the model here. Yeah, Bahamut has the most downscaling. Then Ifrit, Ruby Ifrit, has uh, not a lot of downscaling. I think it's like 75%. Let's see, where'd it go? Mounts. And Sophia Bahamut. And so when I do her for like Ifrit, I'll increase her size instead of by 2 times. I might decrease it a little bit instead to kind of account for how much to keep it relatively the same as Bahamut here. Basically, Bahamut gives me a baseline of how big I want her.
Does it matter? Like, are these for the eggies or these are for the actual
So these are for
form?
the big summons. So summoners, the Bahamut Edgy, I'll do Phoenix Edgy another time.
Would it be easier to just have all of them like not the same size, but like yeah, basically kind of like the same size, so it's not like a
So
huge
the
headache.
Okay, so the reason I have to do different scaling for all of them is
Mhm.
because, well, not all of them, but I have to do different scaling for Bahamut, different scaling for Ifrit, different scaling for Titan and Garuda and Phoenix, is because they all have different amounts of downscaling that are innate to them in the game. There's a file.
Will it break it if you try to make her the same size for all the summons?
It won't break it. So the what I'm doing is I'm increasing her model size, but that's not all I'm going to increase. I'm going to increase her animation size, like the scale of her animations and the scale of her skeleton. This is just the start, basically. This is how I start a creature replacement. Is I'll do the model, and I'll choose a size for the model that I want relative to Bahamut because Bahamut has the most significant downscaling. Um, Whenever I go to Ruby Freet, I'll adjust the amount of scaling that I do here for
Hmm.
his downscaling to keep them about the same size.
Yeah, okay, that's understandable.
So for Bahamut, just for Bahamut, I've chosen 2 times her normal size. So now what I can do is I can scale the skeleton. So to scale the skeleton of the creature, you have to get the skeleton first. And the easiest way I've found to do that is to use the Data Explorer. Um, it it takes a little while to open, but the skeleton and the animations are all in the 40,000 index. Uh, and you'll want to get like a hash list for the Data Explorer that's at least decently up to date. If you want like the absolute newest monsters, you probably won't be able to use this. It's probably easier to use than like the visual effects editor to pull the files, or um, if you know the file paths, you can guess at what they'll be and use just a file path. And well, I'll show you here. So if you have a file path, you know the file path, you can actually use text tools to extract it. So this is how I used to always do it um, before I started using the Data Explorer and using raw extraction from the Data Explorer. So for text tools, you just come to Tools, Raw File Operations, Extract Raw File. And then you paste in the file path and then extract. And I'm going to go to where I have my raw file saved. Another thing, try to organize. That it helps so much to stay organized in this whenever you're doing these edits. So there's the skeleton name and save. All right, so the skeleton has been saved to that path. So that's how you can extract the skeleton, the EID file, the physics file. You can extract their PAP files, which are the animation files. You can extract TMB files, which like I have some file paths down here for TMBs, but I don't usually do this step anymore. This is just what I used to do before I started using the Data Explorer. So the reason I like the Data Explorer is I can come down here, and as you can see, it has this 40,000 index has a lot to it. It has human, it has equipment, it has demi-human, it has actions, which you'll find your TMB files and actions. Has accessories, but I'm going to come down here to monsters, and I'm going to find Sophia's monster number, which is 0344. And I can tell you how I figure out her monster number. I usually
Yeah,
use
go
the
ahead.
visual I usually use the visual effects editor to find monster numbers. Because you can search it by name in there and then just kind of decipher the monster number from that. So here she is, 0344, and I just shift select all the ones that say animation, and then I'll control and select the skeleton. Then I do file, extract raw, and I'll find my location, text tools, raw files, and here I have a folder for her already, and I had extracted her stuff before, but I can extract it again. All right, so that's now saved to this file path here. I already extracted a lot of her stuff before, but yeah, so it'll all be saved under here. Her skeleton will be here along with all the other skeleton files and her animations and all these folders. So there's all her animations, show, hide, animations, just basically everything that I will be using, or that basically everything I can pull animations from, assets from, things, all the things that I can work with. So to scale the skeleton, I use Blender and I use this program called Blender Assist. And so to pull the skeleton into here using Blender Assist, you clear the PAP and you go find your skeleton file. So I saved this one earlier, just a little bit ago, from using raw file extraction. So there's 0344. We'll import that. And so when you use this, it imports really, really tiny. As you can see here, the scale is set to 0.01, its normal size. So, and it's also rotated. Well, I just clear this and I return the scale to 1. That's upside down. And now we can see her actual skeleton. But I want to increase her size by 2 times. So I have to increase her skeleton size by 2 as well. And so I will apply all transformations. And now I have her skeleton scaled, and I'm going to output that. And I'll just rename this, Bahamut. Accept. And you have to select the original skeleton. So that's the output. Now I have to select the original. And now I'm going to export. So now when I come back here, there's my new skeleton file. So what I can do from here is I can import all the skeleton files. I'll just copy the EID files for now. I might have to edit the EID file later, but I'll do that with the EID editor in game. So I'll copy raw file. So instead of doing model copy is specific to models. To do skeletons, I have to do copy raw file. So there's Sophia's 2 Bahamuts. Copy file. For the skeleton, since I don't want her original skeleton, I want the one I scaled, I'm going to use import raw file. This is the import files that I've edited. So there's my edited file there. And then I'm going to copy the rest of these. Now the physics file. Okay, so now what I have here is a model and skeleton base. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create mod pack and create basic mod pack. This is basically my first, like all the first step, is I'll do the model and the skeleton, and I'll get them into a basic mod pack that I can then put into an advanced mod pack. So I'm just going to label this Bahamut. Now I'm going to create an advanced mod pack. And I have a template that I already have set up for making summoner packs. So this is going to be Summoner of the Goddess. Alright, new page. I already have all the abilities listed. And I'm going to edit Demi-Bahamut. Sophia places Demi-Bahamut with Sophia. Now, choose the Bahamut mod pack, select all, and add. Alright, so the advanced mod pack is started. There we are. And I'll just go ahead and delete this. I can also clear my text tools now because what I do is I have my text tools targeted at a copy of the game on another hard drive so that I can use text tools while the game is active if I want. Um, but I'm going to go ahead and clear this since I no longer need this. Now, in the meantime, I'm going to scale the animations. So I'm going to undo until I get back to the start here. So to do the animations, I have to first extract them. And to do that, I use XAT. Now, I use a different program for extracting than I do for combining the animations into a file. So when I want to extract an animation from the PAP files, I use XAT. It's usually quicker. So to do XAT, I need to load the PAP file, and then I will load the skeleton file here. So there's the monster.pap and the skeleton. And then I select my animation, select FBX, and export. And I'm just going to label this 02F, since this is basically a code that designates like running animations. You've got running animations, you've got death animations where it despawns or dies. ID0 is idle. SPB1, that's a spellcast. This is a spellcast loop. So this is the start of your spellcast, and then this is the loop, like the looping animation that she performs as the cast is going. SBC1, same thing, just for a different animation, different type of spell. TRN, this is for turning. This is like when you see her turn around, like you're turning her or something. So you have a tank that, is trying to do memes and keeps turning the boss. So TRN-L, that's left turn. TRN-R, that's right turn. These two, I've actually never seen these two on a monster.pap file. They're usually standalone. They're usually their own PAPs. But for Sophia, I think this is because of her head, like the head that she stands on, that these two are here. But that's how you extract the animation. I've already extracted all her animations and chosen the ones that I want to use. But yeah, so that's how you extract that animation. I'm not going to show extracting all of the animations. That would take a lot longer, and there's no need to. I've already done all the extractions, and I've already chosen the animations that I want to use. So here are all the animations that I'm planning to use for Sophia. These are still unedited, but these are the ones I've chosen. So here's first, I'm going to use this as her auto attack. Now, to see what the animation looks like, if I want to like preview it in Blender.
Pretty much in 2 months. Yo, how does this work though? How does it determine whether to lock on your teammate or an enemy?
I can hear your stream.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I thought it was funny. It's like, how does it determine lock on your teammate or your enemy? Uh,
Yeah, no, they're just talking in the background.
oh no, it's all right. It's funny. Okay, so to like, if I want to preview this animation, I have the animation loaded in. I'm going to import her model file, and then I'm going to link the animation data from one skeleton, her model skeleton. I'm going to shift select the animation skeleton and select link animation data. That's the shortcut is Control L. So link animation
Oh,
data.
I had unmuted just because I was gonna ask you a question, but I didn't know you heard the YouTube. But what I was gonna say was like I can see that the animation is playing out, but is it supposed to be attached to the model though?
No, so the animation is separate from the model. The animation basically acts on the skeleton of the model. And so the skeleton moves and moves the model. And so this is the what I'm going to use as her auto attack.
I can Okay, I can. Yeah, yeah. Actually, I can kind of see what's happening. I was trying to figure out what was even happening to begin with. So,
Yeah,
'cause I
let me see if I
don't see
can.
it.
Let me see if I can hide this. Viewport display. Oh, no, visibility. Okay, so there I've hidden her skeleton. If I want, I can also change the frame to cause it to play over and over. And shift this here. So yeah, you can see her animation, just sticks her arms out. But that's if you want to preview it. Usually, if you do this enough, you start to get to the point where you can see the animation without even having the model. You can kind of just tell which animation is which.
Oh yeah.
And after doing basically hundreds of these, hey, you start seeing it exactly. You start seeing their model and how it's gonna move just by looking at this. Um, but back to this. So when XAT makes an animation FBX file, it always has these fields set, and I want to clear these so that I can edit this animation as I want. So I have to clear the keyframes from this, and I'm going to reset the rotation. All right, so now I can scale the animation. So what I'm going to do
Looks
is
so
I'm going
funny
to,
when it's just by itself too.
yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the transform scales, and I'm going to scale it up by 2 since that's the scaling I've chosen. Control A will open the apply menu and select all transforms. Now, when I do that, she's gonna have some strange movement where she doesn't move like, because I'm scaling her up, she's not gonna move as much as she should. So I have to fix that. And the way to fix that is I go to the animation tab, and it was actually Echo who showed me this, that I was taking the long way around for this. But animation tab, go to this drop down, choose graph editor, and then set, and pause this so I can show. So I'm going to set show hidden, and then come to this drop down, and I'm going to select 2D cursor. And then once that's selected, I'm going to use this field right here, this search field, and search location. So now what I can do is I can select all. I'll press S to scale them. I'll press Y to scale them only in the Y direction. I'm going to use this black box here. I'm going to select and just make the Y scaling 2. So now that is going to fix the movement, just like that. So this animation is ready to export. And now I'm just going to quickly go through the rest of them. I don't even need to go back to the layout. I can just clear from here. Yeah, Echo saved me like so much time when you showed me this setup right here.
Hmm.
And then on to the 02F. This is her walking animation or running animation. Since Bahamut only has the 02F animation, it's the only one I need to really do. Apply all transformations, scale 2. Now this one I do need to edit, but I already know how I'm going to edit it. This is her ultimate animation, so this is what I'm going to use for Bahamut's PvP ability. But I'm not going to use all of it. I'm just going to use the last little bit. I'm going to select all and shift it until this is, I think it's supposed to be at 80. Yeah. And to shift, whoops, I messed that up because I need to shift all of it. So to shift all of it, I had to clear that. I'm going to use A to select all, G to grab it, and X to move it only in the X direction. All right, and zoom in. I want this little like increase size bit at 80. Okay, now I'm going to select all this that I don't need, and I'm going to delete that. So this is just the end of her attack here, and I'll show the animation with her model. You can kind of see the, if I can shift this here, I can zoom out. So yeah, this is going to be just her PvP ability. Got the scales there. And once the visual effects are in place, it'll look a bit different, but yeah. So now I'm going to undo until the model's gone. But that is too long right there, so I'm going to scale that down. So select just those keyframes, scale with S, X to scale in the X direction. This is just to speed it up. And I want it to, I think it was chose 2/3 of the duration. Shift that back over. All right, so that's a little over 160 keyframes, which is still more than the duration of Bahamut's PvP ability, but it should have enough time. Yeah, it should transition well enough. All right, so that's been edited. So I need to scale it. So 2, 2, 2. Apply all transformations. Limit to location. Select all, scale Y and 2. Alright, so now that's done. The rest of these should be a lot easier. Choose her death animation, or her this is going to be her despawn. I actually don't need all of that either, so I can see like here, you can see that's her hand bones right there. They come and cross across her chest. And I only need where she finishes crossing across her chest. So I'm going to delete the rest of these. I could leave them and just use invisibility settings to just make the rest of the animation not be seen, but I like to delete them, save some data. All transforms. And then, I forgot to grab the rest of these though. Delete those. location, scale, Y direction, 2. So this is the death animation, or her despawn animation. But I also need to make one more animation out of this, and this is known as the dead pose animation. So what I want is just this one last frame here. I'll select that, and then use select, invert to select all the others, and delete those. Of course, I forgot about all these, so do that again. Alright, so now I'm left with this one frame. So death pose animation or a dead pose animation is just it's usually a still animation, at least for all the summons it is. Some creatures have different ones, but yeah, for the summons, that's what this is. It's just that still animation. Usually they're like 10 frames long, but you can use just one frame. That's all you need, because it'll just replay that frame, that animation over and over and over and over. So now, well, I can't undo, so I'm going to do new. Select all this, delete, and on to the next animation. Back to graph editor, set my cursor and all that settings. Search location. All right. Now start clearing. Scale that. Go and press play. I need to be in object mode. Apply all transformations. Scale in the Y direction by 2, and this one's done. I always turn off add leaf bones. It gets messy if you don't. This is her appearance animation. I call it SP pop. It's also known as special pop. So this is just how she spawns, basically, or like her normal spawn. In PvP, Bahamut uses an ability when he spawns, much like Demi-Phoenix does.
You
Um,
talking about the? You're talking about the super flare thing,
yeah, Mega Flare.
Mega
Bahamut's Mega
flare. That's
Flare.
what I was
Yep.
talking. Yeah, I don't remember the name.
Yeah, Bahamut's Mega Flare is one of his abilities. It's his spawn ability. Like Phoenix, when it spawns, it does it spawns doing an animation called Everlasting Flight, and that's what starts the healing. They're like the healing AOE around Phoenix. And unlike Bahamut, Phoenix's Everlasting Flight, its spawn ability is used everywhere. Whereas with Bahamut, his third ability, or yeah, it's number 3 basically in the PAP list. That's only used in PvP. But they basically act the same. They're spawn abilities, and that's actually unique to Demi Phoenix. Demi Phoenix doesn't have a special PAP file. It only has that spawn ability. I think a few other maybe enemies have that as well, but that's as far as summons go, that's unique to Phoenix. So, all right, so I'm done with all the ability animations. So I'm going to start packing the animations back into a PAP file. Now, the reason I don't use XAT for this is because it struggles with it's a code that's on Bahamut's monster.pap file that it doesn't recognize for some reason. Or I don't know if maybe it's been updated recently. I'd have to check the newest version of XAT, but it fails to actually uh, edit the PAP file, and it actually clears the entire animation when it does. So it kind of wrecks the PAP file. So I use multi-assist for repacking them. And I think this came before XAT. It's a bit older, but it's basically it lacks a lot of the bells and whistles that XAT has, like timeline editing, which is nice, but if you have the PAP editor, you don't need timeline editing or skeleton editing or any of this. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to find, first I'm going to pull the PAPs that I have saved for Bahamut. Oh, whoops, I need to do that here. Text tools, saved. I'm going to pull these PAP files that I have saved for Bahamut. Copy those. Come up to 344 here. And I'm going to paste them here. And I actually don't need this one. I'm going to use this one. Alright, so all that's ready to start repacking. Wrong one. Alright, so I select my PAP file. I'm going to start with the monster file. I need my skeleton. Then I need to select the FBX with the animations in it. So I'm going to start with 02F, submit. Need to use this same folder, and it's monster.pap. So 02F, repack. Now on to dead pose, submit, repack, submit. DED2, that's basically also the same as dead pose for most creatures. So I'm going to just use the same animation. And the same goes for DED3. Now, I don't know if you can hear, but that's my dog going in and out of the doggy door.
Yeah.
Now for the dead animation, DED1 is the dead animation. For Bahamut, it has these three, the FT DEDs. For like Ruby Freet or Topaz Titan, it doesn't have like DED2 or DED3. It also doesn't have DED1. It just has one that's DED, and then it has dead pose. And then it lacks the rest of these. But I'll go to ID 0. Alright, so there's the monster PAP. I'm going to do special pop. And I'm just going to label this. I just like to label this SP pop. That way it's easier to tell apart. Now 01. Pack the 01 animations. Alright. Oops, wrong one. 02. And 03. Yeah, this is why I do still like multi-assist. It's just straightforward. You don't edit a bunch of stuff. It doesn't have a bunch of options. It's just basically purely animations. So now with those animations done, I can go into the game. I'm gonna log in over here just real quick. Alright, back to recording. So now I'm going to import my mod. Mod packs. Summoner of Goddess. Make sure this is turned off. Yep. Alright, so that covers the model and skeleton. I'm going to open the PAP editor. I'm going to start importing my PAPs to Demi-Bahamut. So start with the special pop. And then the monster.pap. 01. Two. And 03. Okay, so the animations should now... And if my Rothgar looks a little big, it's because he has a little bit of racial scaling. So... And there she is. Right now she has the sound effects and the sound effects and the visual effects of Demi-Bahamut. And let me turn down this volume a bit because it's pretty loud on my end. But yeah, so that is animations done. Now, the visual effects. I kind of already pre-planned what visual effects I want to use too. So let's go to Sophia. And I think it was 03? Yes. So this one is going to be her auto attack. Now use Demi-Bahamut. Where's 03T? Okay, so that's the visual effects selected. I'm going to also need to edit the TMB file. So, go to Sophia again. And instead of trying to search for 03, I'm going to use paths here and just select it forcefully. Alright, so for the animations to work properly, I'm not going to use any voice lines because the voice lines are not going to match. I'm just going to remove that. Fly text is fine. Sound. Okay, so here's what I need to edit first and foremost. This has to match my PAP. So when I look at a PAP file, and here's 01, because I'm doing the auto attack at the moment. 01 is Bahamut's auto attack. You can see here, CBBM SP01. That is the animation code. And that has to match the TMB code as well. Otherwise, the animation will not play. So, let me just double check this, make sure there's nothing on there. Yeah. I'm going to go summon Phoenix so I can get started on that. Alright, so I've got the TMB loaded, the animation code edited. Now I'm going to use this file path to replace the file paths in the TMB. So I'm taking, like I copied, or I basically redirected Sophia's visual effects to Bahamut's visual effect file path here, so that I can then use his file paths here to edit the TMB file. This prevents things like visual effects spillover. So basically I won't, as I'm editing the visual effect, it won't affect Sophia in her actual fight. This keeps that limited. So that one and this one. So I come back here. This one was Bahamut number 8, T0H. So now the file paths are changed. So now, when I summon her, and do her Kindle real quick, but now, so now the visual effects were different. I might increase the size of this visual effect though, because there seems to be some scaling going on. I actually want this one to be bigger too. Make it more visible. Okay, but I'll test that when I come back around to it. Now, there was it? I think I wanted to use her A arrow. That is an ability I miss having on White Mage. Was it A arrow 3? Not that one. Nope. No. It's not 7, I know that for sure. No. There it is. So it's 9. Okay. So I'm going to start Phoenix, summon Phoenix again. So I'm going to find TMB09 so I can get all the paths in one place. That's the other thing. If you find or you know an ability you want to use, but you're not sure of all the animation or all the visual effects that are involved with it, you can come to the TMB and play them all for yourself. Okay, so C2, C0, C3, C1. Okay, I don't like using shoot animations, so I'm going, or shoot visual effects, so I'm going to remove that one. And that should leave me with just the visual effects I want. Alright, so I'm going to start with C0H. I can come back to the visual effects editor, and instead of scrolling through this entire list trying to find all of them, I can use the paths instead. So C0H is going to be the Enkindle ability, and then go to the next one, 2, 3, C1H. And I'm just going to keep using this file path and just edit it further. So C1H. C2H. Now I'm taking Bahamut's file path and I'm just using its format to create new file paths. That's all it takes to really create a new file path is to take an existing one if you want, or you can really use not even an existing one. You can make one up in most cases. I think as long as it starts with a VFX. Uh, but I like to use the existing ones and the existing formats just because it's easier to keep track of. They already have numbers in there that designate which TMBs they go to. Um, it keeps I feel like it keeps things more organized. Now C3H. Okay, so now I'm going to take these file paths and put them into my TMB file. So let's start with C0H. I'm going to copy that again too. This should be C2H. That's the other thing is I use them to also match these file paths, like these last 3 digits here. And then C1H. And I need to make sure the animation matches, so this should be CBM02, because this is the Enkindle ability, which is the second PAP. Now, do the Enkindle. Okay, so that's targeting her at the moment, but I can fix that. Worm Wave is bigger now. Okay, so to fix that, I'm going to use, just change that to target, and I like to use Fit Ground. Target Fit Ground. Origin can behave slightly differently when you have a creature that flies, because the origin of a flying creature is actually up off the ground a little bit, so that's why I usually use Fit Ground for most everything. See, this one is C3H. When does that one play? I want to double check this. 13, does that come before all the others? No? Okay. Okay, now I'm going to move on to the number 3 ability. Just because I'm going to have to wait for this to come off cooldown before I test again. That's the downside of starting with Bahamut, is you have to wait like 2 minutes to check any changes you do. So this is going to be 03. This is her ultimate. Let's see. I want to keep that. That's the background. I don't need that one. I've already kind of looked through these, so I know what each one does. I don't need that one, but I do want the sound effect here. These are all before my animation should be starting, so I don't need these. And this one's grounded, so I'm going to have to now edit the timings. So this should occur at 80 frames because of like how I edited the animation earlier. Like I cut it down, but I set the kind of the change of size of the scales at 80 frames. And this should occur, I think, at 5 frames. I'll have to test that. Or no, this one's is 1 frame. That's the sound effect. This one should occur at about 4 or 5 frames. But this one I'll have to test in the Wolves Den. So for now, let's test. Nothing kindles. Alright, so the auto attack and the enkindle ability are good. I need to do her appear, or her spawn and her despawn. So those, this is her spawn. Warp 3 is, so warp animations are usually like a despawn and a spawn really quickly in succession. So they make really good special pop and despawn animations. So warp 3, you kind of have to think in reverse, because with a warp animation, usually a warp animation is a creature despawning then respawning. In this case, I need her to spawn and then despawn. So warp 3 is going to be the spawn, whereas warp 1 would be the despawn. It's kind of reverse order, but it makes sense once you start thinking in reverse of how the warp behaves. So for this, I usually use a file path that I make myself, just because I don't like dealing with the weird way that the file paths for spawn and special pops are written. Let me go here. I have mine saved in Google Drive. Okay, so there's the warp 3. There's the pop. Okay, that's usually the file path I use for that. I need warp 1. And depop. So now those are done. And I will edit the special pop. So I need to change the file path for the special pop to this. And that should occur very quickly. I don't need that one. I like to usually reduce the appearance because this is a pretty quick animation, so she's gonna need to be visible pretty fast. And now the despawn. And while I'm in the monster .pap file, I'm going to edit out some of the things I don't need. Don't need voice lines because that's going to do like wing flaps whenever she's moving, because they're using Demi-Bahamut's sound file. So I need to remove some of this stuff. So it's not, she doesn't have wings. Her wings aren't flapping. She doesn't have wings that are flapping. So let's see. This should. I'm gonna go with 15 for now. Oh, whoops. There we go. Okay. Now go to here. This should just have invisibility on it. Yep. This one should have voice line. Need to remove that. Let me make sure my invisibility is good. I want that to occur at 25 because the animation was only 30 frames long, so I need it to occur earlier. You want it to match the length, your invisibility file, or your invisibility settings. Otherwise, she's gonna like blink. She'll disappear and then she'll blink real quick and reappear and then disappear again. So it needs to match your parameters here. And the animation's good there. Idle. Okay, all good on the idle. So now, let's see. While I'm at it, I'm going to take the sounds off the TMBs and put them on the PA or the visual effects. The reason I like to do this is a lot of like sound effects, they're not able to be limited by the team by like people can turn off sound effects from other players, and when they do that, that's why I like to put like the sound effects on visual effects, because when you turn off the sound effects from other players, it makes it where you can, or turn off the visual effects from other players, you can then turn off the sound effects as well from other players. Because sound effects on mods can be pretty loud and pretty annoying. So not doing that can just make it
Is there any way
annoying.
to edit the sound so it's not as loud?
Yes, you can edit the sound using the SCD editor. You can make unique sound files. I find just putting it on the visual effect to be the simplest method. It's basically the one that takes the least amount of file edits, the least amount of editing of sound files. It works for text tools users as well as Penumbra users, and so you can put the sound on the visual effects, and then whenever someone turns off visual effects, they're not still hearing the sound. Or like if you have the mod on and you turn off visual effects from other players, then you don't hear their sound effects too. I think even Papa-chan does that a lot, where they put the sound on the visual effects too. And for the longest time, I couldn't figure out why they did that, and I was like, oh, I see. It makes it a little easier on people's ears. Okay, so that one's taken care of. Now for arrow. So this one starts at 9. This visual effect starts at 9. So it's C2. I can put it on 5. Okay, now. Okay, I'm gonna have to increase the size of that. Okay, so I need to increase the size of the spawn and despawn visual effects. So let's go with 3. And since I do need to start testing the PvP ability, whoops, I'm going to go ahead and head to the Wolves Den. Another thing to remember to do, save often. Yeah, definitely save your workspace often. There have been times I have lost hours of work. Okay, let that charge up for a bit. Let's start on the ultimate ability, or the spawn ability, whatever you want to call it. Number 3. So this is, okay, so that's the first one. And this is going to go on, where is it? This one? Yep. Alright, timeline 1 occurs there. Now, next one is the sound effects. I'm going to, so whenever you see SE in a visual effect, usually that indicates that it's just a sound effect. Like this one has no binder, that means it spawns on the ground. Well, I'm going to change that. So I want it to spawn on the caster, since Bahamut's PvP ability is centered on the caster. Then I need to do the actual attack. And this one, I believe, also spawns on the ground, so I'll have to add a binder for that. There we go, 2. Okay, this one I need to apply the binder still. So this, I know you can't hear it, but that was the sound effect for it. Let's see, default, caster. Let's see, this should be fit ground as well, because this is the glyphs and stuff from her ultimate. And I'm just going to apply it to the timeline here. So this should be just, yeah, just like that. Okay, let's. I do need to put the file paths into the TMB file, so I will change those here. That's T2K, and then T1. Okay, let's spawn Bahamut. That was bigger than I expected, but I think I have some items here that are probably occurring. I don't know if you saw it, there's like a sphere or something around her too when she did that. Oh, it wasn't a sphere, it was just... Okay, it's that ground effect. So let's figure out which one that is. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. And it's probably on this one, which means I'm gonna have to figure out which, yeah. Alright, so which one of you is it? So to test these, I usually just change, you can change create probability to 0, and that will basically turn off these particles. And then I can activate them one at a time. So that's kind of a screen flash, which I'm going to remove. I know a lot of people hate any kind of like flashbang kind of stuff on their screen. I get a lot of messages for my Ramu edit or my Ramu summon about the like screen kind of flickering whenever you summon because it's thunder. It's, you know, it's summons like thunder. So now test them again or test her again. Okay, where is that? That must be on this. Yeah, okay, so I need to find out which of these. It's not going to be on this, I don't think. It's probably going to be on one of these. So one of these is doing that really obstructive orb. That's the one. Okay. The rest of these be fine without it. That emitter. Looks like it will be, so emitter 2. Yeah, it just does that one model. So I can get rid of emitter 2. Alright, so before I export anything, I like to clean up. Basically remove anything from the visual effects that is not needed. This was a godsend from Ocelot, who just none of us could basically do anything we do without Ocelot. Okay. Okay, it's rotating, which I don't want, so that is going to be on the binder here. Yep. Don't want -1 there. That's fine, that's just a sound effect. Just one of these is a camera effect. I really don't like having camera effects. That should all be good. Alright, let's get a closer look. Might be a little large. Turn off scaling. I don't want the AoE to be too large. I just want it. Okay. That's nice. I like that she's big, but she's not overly big. Alright, I think she's done. Yep, all the sounds are on visual effect files, all the TMBs are good. Yeah, that's Demi-Bahamut finished. Actually, didn't take as long as I expected. So,
Yeah, that was pretty nice.
Oops, wrong one. Well, thank you for watching. I think I'm going to just put the video together and